members of the Senate, please be seated. This morning, we're honored to have Tulsi's dad, Senator Mike Gabbard, offer a moment of contemplation.
Thank you, Carol. Aloha mai kako. What I'd like us all to contemplate on today is, lucky we live Hawaii. We've heard that phrase many times. I was watching the evening news last night, and they had the 100 million people are going to be affected by the icy and the snow and all the stuff that's happening on the East Coast. It has a special meaning for me, and I'd like to share that with you this morning. Lucky we live in Hawaii. And this actually came about as a confluence of 3 days. My birthday on January 15th, when my body turned 67. For those of you that sent your birthday wishes, you will continue to receive my toffee on your birthdays. For those of you that forgot, Carol says you're now no longer receiving. So, not that it's a quid pro quo thing, but so that was the first thing. The other thing was January 19th was Martin Luther King's holiday. And then a couple days later, Carol and I saw the movie Selma. I actually left American Samoa when I was a baby, and my father was stationed in the deep, deep South from 1955 to 1966. It was during that time when there were separate water fountains that said white and colored over here. Separate bathrooms that said men, women, and colored over here. In the 3rd grade, my teacher during show and tell day wanted us to all say where we were from, and I said I was from Samoa. And then she looked at me and said, "Is that a country in Africa?" And then for the rest of that year, my friends, my classmates called me the N-word. Soon I learned, and this is in the 3rd and the 4th grade, I was chased out of bathrooms and called the N-word, usually with the F word in front of the N-word. I was chased away from water fountains, and so by the time it was the summer of '66, I knew I had to get out of the South, and so I started hitchhiking from Florida to California. I had my guitar, and I was singing at bars and clubs to pay for my way out there. And I was in Louisiana, in a town, and it was on a Sunday afternoon, and I looked across, busy intersection. There was a billboard about the size of this, maybe a little smaller, but it was horizontal. And it was a black and white photo that was blown up, so it was very grainy. And at the top of the billboard it said, "Martin Luther King Jr. at Communist Training School." And then around Martin Luther King's head was a bullseye, a red with red paint. So I'm standing there with my guitar, with my thumb out, and I was thinking, oh my God, what am I doing here now? I made it out to California, and before that, actually, 2 years later, by the way, is when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, April of 1968. After graduating, I went down to Samoa. In 1971, I was teaching English, and then I got a job opportunity to be the head tennis pro out at Kuilima, actually Turtle Bay. Back then, it was known as the Kuilima Hyatt. And it was during that time, that 6-month period that I was here, that I began to experience what Hawaii is all about. And I began to experience lucky we live Hawaii. I was amazed at the many different ethnicities and the races and everybody you could think of. Filipinos, Japanese, Chinese, Samoans, Hawaiian, everybody just kind of, I'd go to the shopping centers at Pearl Ridge or Ala Moana, and I'd just sit there for hours looking at the people just saying, wow, this is incredible. So we went back to Samoa after 6 months, and it took us about 5 years to come back here. Sold our home and moved back in 1983. So ever since then, I count my blessings every day, and I'm very grateful and, yes, lucky that we live in Hawaii. Mahalo ke akua me ke aloha.
Thank you, Tulsi's dad.